The Late Night Legends podcast is meant for an adult audience only. It may contain sexually oriented content. Content may not be suitable for sensitive listeners. Please be aware of your surroundings. Listener discretion is advised. Watch out.
My name shall they cast out demons, they shall speak in new tongues, they shall take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly poison, it shall in no wise hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. The serpent is only brought into the holy sanctum, and only handled as the Holy Ghost of the Holy Spirit speaks directly to the disciple.
All right, cool. Late Night Legends podcast and radio show. Happy to have y'all here. My name is Frank, and I'm here with my co-hosts James.
Hello.
And tonight we've got a special guest, Brie Hollingshead. I'm gonna ask her how you pronounce that. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, but we'll find out. Just checking in here really quick with any updates. James, do you have anything? Anything at all?
No. Just very sleepy.
Kimberly, do you have any updates at all that you want to share with any listeners, viewers, or people after the fact?
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. Joan is taking some time to travel today in the next couple days. So we wish her happy travels and a safe journey. And she'll be back on, I think, the first episode of November for sure, and maybe before that. But you'll have to tune in and see.
Yeah, depends on her jet lag.
It depends on things, and she's a great sport, so hopefully she'll do great there. And I will say that if you listen to our sister podcast, Super Balls, she won't be on this week either because we'll have that tomorrow. But she helped plan it, and she helped arrange it, so she's pulling double and triple duty. So I love it. So with that said, we're gonna welcome in Brie here momentarily, and what else was I gonna tell you guys? I feel like there was something else, but maybe I will jump in and tell you guys later. Maybe we should just have Brie on. Let's just get her in here. What do you think? Yeah. Good? Wonderful. All right. Let me just jump over here and press all the right buttons. All right. All right. She's coming on in, and I made us some little job titles. I'll put that in there. Hey, Brie.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, we decided to get you on early because we took a few extra minutes because we were talking wedding banter type stuff.
Oh, fun stuff. Been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
How was your wedding? Tell us about your wedding. That's what we want to hear.
No. I'm not married no more. You don't want to hear about that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Oh, man. I'm sorry. Okay, so with that said, I think we're gonna change it up a little bit today. We usually kind of go into things like overly studying our guests, and I think with you we took a little bit of a different approach, and we're gonna actually ask you to kind of lead the way with telling us how things are with you. Also, I'd recommend if you can go ahead and turn off the if you see like another participant, just turn off non-video participants in your Zoom if you want to do that. I think we'll be good.
Do what? Turn off what?
Non-video participants, only if there's an extra screen. It might already be like that for you. I don't know how your Zoom is set up.
Yeah, it just shows Late Night Legends, and it's got the mic muted.
All right, cool. I mean, if you're happy with that, that's cool. So I don't think any of our listeners really know much about you, so why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself. Oh, wait, actually, before we get into that, this is James, my co-host, and then down here is Kimberly. This is Brie.
Hi. Hi.
Brie, how do you pronounce the last name?
Hollingshead. It's a mouthful, I know.
I've got a 13-letter long Italian last name.
Jamie told me how to pronounce it. I don't remember.
Mashavecchio.
Man. Okay, wonderful.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. All right. So we are all good to go. Brie, take it away. Whenever you're ready, just give us a little bit of backstory. Tell us what makes you you.
What makes me me? Okay. Well, I'm a paranormal investigator, and so what I do is I go on paranormal road trips right now, and I go every weekend. I go to historically haunted locations, and I highlight the history, and I give information on the haunting. I try to encourage everyone to go fulfill their bucket list, which is what I'm in the process of doing. Ironically, what started this was I went through a divorce. And so my 18 and 19-year-old sons, they sat down with me, and I've always dealt with the paranormal. I had my first experience when I was 6. So they sat me down, and, I raised them watching paranormal shows, and they're like, Mom, that's your passion. You need to start pursuing it. You've got a chance to do it. And I was like, you know what? Fine. All right, I'll do this. And so I started going to events, and went to an event down in North Carolina, to the USS North Carolina. And on the way, I had stopped at a rest stop, and I just had this overwhelming feeling like I should have fun with my trip and do side quests along the way. So of course I went to Point Pleasant, saw the Mothman Museum, and, rubbed the shiny hiney of the Mothman, and went to Sweet Springs, because that was the Friday that Project Fear had actually released their sleeping arrangements for when they filmed at Sweet Springs. So I did it as an honor to them. Went and did the event, and on the way home I stopped at St. Albans, and then I stopped at Trans Allegheny. But as I've been doing it, my trips have been progressing to where I used to just do still pictures, and I would just type in the history and the hauntings, and now I go live across all my platforms on StreamYard. So that way I can bring it live and make it personal for my audience. So that way they can see firsthand the location, because there's people out there with health issues, financial distance, where they're not able to go to these locations. And then on top of it, I do investigations and I do events. I'm now involved on the Paracons. I just did one this past weekend at the Haunted Rock Island YMCA. Had a table set up, so that was really fun. But so with the investigations now, I go live, so that way they're able to see firsthand what a real investigation is like, and they're able to be a part of it. And there's times where they'll catch stuff that I don't catch, they'll see shadows or hear things. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, that's fantastic.
That's amazing. What would be your holy grail place to go and visit or do an investigation?
Oh my God. Well, I've been doing this since July, so I've been trying to knock as much off my bucket list as possible. But the holy grail, I would have to say, and it changes with each time somebody asks me, because there's been 3 major locations that I've gone to that they all 3 stick out to me, and I'm trying to do a shout out for each one. But I went to Mid-O, and during my live there, you could actually see my hair get played with when I was there, and my hand got squeezed to the point where I dropped my flashlight. So that is a great location. But I think Old Hospital on College Hill in Williamson, West Virginia is definitely, if you want to see shadow people, if you want to hear noises, I've got a Polaroid picture that was actually taken where you can see what looks like an angelic being above me and to my right, and then right behind me you can see an 8 to 10 foot shadow person, and then above my head you can see what looks like a squid type shadow figure coming out of the ceiling above me. So
wow,
yeah, it's insane.
How about a location you have yet to go to? Where is that one place that you have yet to go, and that you before you die? Where is it?
Before I die, okay. So I would have to say like West Coast. I mean, everybody probably says this, but the Queen Mary. I love my history and the fact that that's the sister ship to the Titanic, and how it was used during World War II with being a floating hospital. That right there just seals the deal for me. That the history just speaks volumes, and I'm a full believer that history is a huge proponent of what can cause your hauntings. So I would love to see the Queen Mary. I think that's huge on the West Coast. The East Coast, I'm actually hitting that up. I'm getting ready to do a Halloween special. It's going to be, I just got off of a road trip that was 2 weeks and 2 days. I hit 12 states. This one, I'm not sure how many states I'm going to hit, but it's going to be like 2.5 weeks. And I'm going to go hit New England for Halloween. So like each day I plan on hitting a new location and going live to bring like New England alive to like my audience, you know, because everybody wants to see New England during spooky season, especially the areas of Massachusetts. So like the fact that I get to go do that here, I'm leaving October 20th and I'm going to be beating the pavement out that way. I'm so excited about that.
I have to ask, are you going to hit up Sleepy Hollow?
Yes, I am hitting Sleepy Hollow.
I grew up in Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, wow. That is awesome.
It's, you know, I think being from there has taken a lot of the like fun out of it.
Right.
Because we learn, like you say, we learn, you know, the legends, but then we also learn the like, and here's the historical facts about what actually happened and where he is. And this is the person's gravestone. That was the inspiration. Turned out they were just a teacher in another town. And like, we're like, oh, cool. So no ghosts. Okay, thank you.
You just totally killed that for me.
No, but there's some really creepy shit still there. Because there are a lot of legends that are nowhere near as famous as like the Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Right.
The cemetery it's not one of it might be the oldest Dutch cemetery in the country. Because it was established in the 1600s. But there's plenty of other folklore around the area that is not the Headless Horseman, that is just as creepy and just as like old and pagan and like really fun.
Nice. Yeah, I'm so excited for that because like what I try to do too with my road trips is like I do like the hidden gems, and so like the legends, you know, like I look for the legends, and I try to always end my live with, you know, here's what legend says, but you know, why don't you get off the couch and come here and I'll let you be the one to decide it for yourself. You know, like I think it's fun when you're able to correlate it like that for your audience. So I think that the legends, especially like the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, is going to be like a huge one for me to get to conquer.
Well, I'll send you a couple of in the cemetery. There's a couple of other points of interest that are really fun.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
It sounds like it's going to be an awesome tour. It sounds like you're living your best life, just going and traveling to these places. It's kind of making me a little jealous. I'm not going to lie. Are you looking to also like do things internationally too, or are you just kind of restricting yourself for the time being just to like the US kind of stuff?
I'm open to going international, actually. I had a couple people at the Paracon that were telling me that you need to make sure you got your passport ready, because with how fast I've taken off. I mean, I just did this for fun. I've only been doing it since the first weekend of July of this year. And with how fast I've taken off, they're like, you're probably going to end up in Europe in the next 6 months to a year. And I'm like, bring it, let's go. Yeah. You know, like I'm looking forward to it, because it's like that right there is just like a paranormal playground, you know?
Absolutely.
100%.
I hear Scotland it seems to be on most people's like haunting bucket list. And I don't know what it is about Scotland in particular, but
yeah. I think it's all the fighting that was over there, you know, like between, because you've got England and then you've got Ireland and you've got Scotland and the fighting of the borders, and you've got the castles, and you know, there's so much lore and legend there of what is real and what is just legend, you know. So there's so much to tackle. And I think it's highly romanticized in the paranormal field, but I've actually just found out my lineage is I've got Scottish in my lineage, so I definitely want to hit Scotland. I'm Irish too, so I want to hit Ireland, you know. But I think that with the history and the lore with the castles, and you know, you've got your Knights of the Round Table, and you know, like all of that, I think that just feeds into it so much, because what is real? Where is the real castle? You know, who really was Guinevere? You know, like it really makes you wonder and want to dig deeper. And I think it's beautiful how they've done a lot of it, you know.
So I very much like you, I'm a huge history buff. What would you say is like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like paranormal related, but what is like your favorite like crazy story from history? Like you get drunk at a bar and this is what you have to like tell everyone about.
Oh my God. Okay. Crazy history story, drunk at a bar. It would always probably go back to the Civil War, because I mean the Civil War was just insane. You've got there were women who were cutting their hair off and using bandages and dressing as men so they could go fight with their brothers, their dads, their husbands, their beaux. You know, you've got the women who turned turncoat, and you know, they were upper echelon, and they were going to Washington D.C. and rubbing elbows with the senators, and you know, sewing. I actually did when I was in North Carolina. I was there filming 2 episodes for an upcoming paranormal TV show that's getting released. I think the drop date's going to be in December. And so I went to Oakdale Cemetery in Wilmington, North Carolina, and there's an actual grave there that is still maintained by the women of the Confederate Soldiers Association. And she was a spy, and she actually sewed into her dress like the coins, and something happened to the boat, and she jumped off the boat and she sank and she drowned with all her blood money, you know. Ironically,
was this Belle Boyd?
I think it is Belle Boyd, or it was Rose. I think her name was Rose.
Okay.
But
Rose O'Neill.
Yeah, Rose O'Neill. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's a crazy story, you know. I mean, hearing how women were so willing to be a part of, you know, I mean, there's so much. I mean, you've even got, you know, the tragic tale of Jackson, who was killed by his own men at night when he was trying to cross back in, you know, at Chancellorsville, you know. And that's actually got an interesting rumor of a haunting, that the sentinel that shot him still, you know, he refuses to leave his post, and he's still seen in the woods. Yeah, so that's crazy. And there's even the report that Jackson still walks the line on his horse with his arm held up like he used to, like, because you know, he always ate lemons and believed in, like, you know, like the old wives' tale, you know, to get rid of headaches and whatnot. They would raise their hand over their head and they would eat. He got into eating lemons, I think, in the war of one of the, like, the Spanish-American War. He picked them up in Florida and ended up with a fond love of lemons, and would have lemons imported from Florida up to Virginia for him to have. So, I mean, the Civil War, you can't go wrong with a drunk bar story from the Civil War, in my opinion.
I very much agree. I am, my wife will tell you that I will get drunk and I will tell either the Lincoln assassination or the Garfield assassination. Like, those are my two biggies.
Those are great ones.
But if you haven't already, there's a fantastic book called Liar, Temptress, Soldier, Spy. And that's where I had read about Belle Boyd and Rose O'Neill. And
okay.
Yeah, it's 4 different women who went undercover in the Civil War.
Wow. Yeah, I think I've heard of that book, but I don't think I've got that in my collection. I'm a huge book nerd, so I'm going to have to definitely, like, snag that up, like, ASAP.
Yeah, it was really good. I read it a number of years back, but it's a great read.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I will definitely grab that ASAP.
A lot of things involving the Civil War are very powerful. We used to have this particular host, work with us, and his parents, you know, they were like my parents. Like, my parents don't ever talk about ghosts or anything, but his parents actually live in Gettysburg, and they swear they actually saw in their own house a soldier walking back and forth. And they don't talk about the paranormal. It's not something that they're saying it for clout, and they're not saying it, they're not reporting it somewhere. It's something that it just happened in their place, and they only tell family about it. And the same thing for me. Like, my parents, they don't talk about anything paranormal. They don't believe in it. They hate horror movies. But my dad, was visited by La Llorona, the crying ghost, when he was in Mexico. And he'll tell any family member about it, but he just doesn't like to talk about it otherwise. So it's really cool that like Gettysburg is one of those places where it's like even the normies, they'll experience things. And so like, it would be really great if I could go there someday, but I probably won't make it, to be honest.
Not that far.
You've got to get to Gettysburg. I've got pictures that date back to when I was 16. I just turned 43, but I've got pictures from when I was 16 and we went for a family vacation where you can see soldiers walking through the woods, and there was no reenactment going on and there was nobody back there. It was actually like dusk, and like they were, park rangers were going around, okay, you guys got to hurry up and get off the field. And we're like, but what about them? And they're like, what them? And we're like, do you not hear do you not see them? Mm-hmm. Like those guys, and they were like, there's nobody over there. We're like, how can you not see these people? Like, it blows my mind how some people can see and others can't. Mm-hmm. But like, even with Gettysburg, the triangular field, everybody makes a big deal with the triangular field. Like, audio equipment goes haywire there. Cameras will stop working. Batteries are drained. And when I was there, I just graduated high school. It was 1998. And I had a Kodak Advantix camera. And what was special about this camera is it would not take a picture unless it actually like locked in on something. You had to focus in for it to take a picture. And it would not focus on anything in the field. I had to take a picture of the field, I had to focus on a tree like outside of the field. Mm-hmm. And then there's this big boulder that people had put like fake flowers on and like, little letters and whatnot for the soldiers. Cause it was like, I believe one of the Alabama regiments that had come up through the triangular field over Devil's Den and then fought their way up and was repelled three times by the 20th Maine off Little Round Top. So, not all the, that was just one of them, and it like, I remember looking down and it just so happened like there was a letter there addressed to the Alabama regiment, and my brother standing there and he had a Union, drummer boy hat on. And so I took a picture. It actually focused on the boulder. So I took a picture of the boulder and my brother standing right next to it, took a picture of him and then went back to the boulder just to see if anything weird happened. And, with the Advantix, it timestamps down to the second on the back of the pictures. Mm-hmm. And I still got all three of these pictures. The first picture came out fine. 1 second later with my brother, it's completely black. All you see is my brother. Like, so it's not like a malfunction or anything, mm-hmm. because he's still there, but it looks like I took the picture like with the black screen behind him. The next picture, you can see that it's dusk. 1 second later, the boulder and everything's fine again.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's weird how like little things like that will happen at Gettysburg. So I think it's definitely, I highly suggest anybody to go there. 1, for the history, and 2, if you want to see something, be open to it and you're gonna see something.
I think it's so interesting how wars, especially like Civil and World War II, like the big ones that have a lot of history behind them, artifacts from those events can carry, I think, just so much energy. Because I know there's a museum right next to me that has, I believe it's from World War II. They have some uniforms and there's a whole bunch of planes and everything from all through history. There's a lot of different artifacts, but most of the time, if you hear people talking about things that have happened inside the museum, things that just weren't quite right, a lot of them center around those uniforms, which is really interesting. I feel like they still hold a lot of energy.
Oh yeah, and you can have attachments too. Like say if that was somebody's beloved item, like they could decide like, I don't want to leave this, like this is mine. And that's, I fully believe, like with any item, that's where you're gonna have your attachment and your the weird things that happen around that item, you know. Like I've heard so many people that have relics from World War One, World War Two. I mean, you can go all the way back to like the War of 1812, you know, Alamo, people that have these relics that have been passed down through family, and they're like, yeah, we got to keep it under glass, or we got to keep it in this chest. And you know, and you're thinking, oh, it's just to preserve the item, but when you really start to like dig deeper, you find out, no, we keep it here because, you know, if we don't, X, Y, and Z happens, you know. And I find that real interesting. And it the one thing that I can think is that must be like a beloved item. Like that was there. This is mine. Nobody else is going to have it, you know. And like, I'm going to take I can't take it with me physically in death. So I'm going to stay with it.
Brie, if you were going to have an attachment to an item once the bucket has been kicked, what do you think that you would attach yourself to, and why? For like serious. Okay, so it would be like, if I were to pick something like as a joke, like just to mess with people, it would be my equipment. Like just to make my equipment go off, just to really mess with my kids, because I know it'd be my kids that would have it, you know, just to like totally screw with them, you know. Why won't the K2 stop going off? Did you change the batteries? It's brand new batteries, you know, like just to mess with my kids, because I know they would take it, you know. The cat balls won't stop lighting up. You know? Just, I think that would be funny, and because that's, you gotta have fun with it, you know. But in all seriousness, it would probably be my photo album of the pictures of my kids, you know. So go sentimental. Yeah. Either that or my mom's Bible. Yeah.
A nice family heirloom.
Why not? Yeah. Do more than one if you can do it. We also have a question from a viewer, Don Montoyo, who's asking, in your opinion, for example, when we were talking about Gettysburg, why is it that certain people can see ghosts and maybe other people cannot see the same ghosts at the same time? What would you think is the reason for that?
Oh, well, I've got two different theories on that. So my first one is very basic. I think that it's whether you're willing. Yes, I got a cat in here yelling at me. I'm sorry. I think it's whether. Come here. I think it's sorry. I think it's whether you're willing to be open to it or not. And if you've got those walls up, well, because it's fear, you know, or unbelief, you know, you're not going to see, you know. It's all about your energy. I am a full believer that it's your energy. If you bring bad energy to a place, where are you going to attract? You're going to attract the bad energy right back, you know. But if you come, and that's not just with the dead, that's with living, you know. I mean, if you come up to somebody and you've got a total jerk attitude, what are you going to get back? You know, you're going to get somebody that's standoffish, that's not really wanting to deal with you. But if you've got a bubbly personality, you're going to have somebody that's going to bend over backwards. You know, you draw more, you know, more flies with honey, more, you know, as my mom always said. But the second one is, I lean really heavy on this, is I believe that spirits will manifest themselves to people differently. And, you know, it's not just like with, like, you can catch EVPs. Like they always say, you know, make you, like, even videotape, like when you play back your EVPs, videotape it. Because when you play it back again, you might hear something different than what you thought you first heard. But I've seen it where people have caught EVPs and played them back, and all three heard something completely different.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I've seen where I physically have been, you know, at Old Hospital in College Hill, where I was actually at an event, and I was part of the group that was holding the event. And I turned and I'm looking, and I'm seeing, we're down in the basement, and I'm seeing what looks like a physical person. Like I would have sworn it was an actual human peeking around the corner, and then they'd like they were standing up, and then they'd go back around the corner, and then they'd peek around the corner again. But it was like they were getting down low, like they had their knees bent, and then they disappear back around. And I looked at this woman behind me, and I was like, "Do you see this?" And she's like, "Yeah, I've been watching it for the past 5 to 10 minutes." So I'm still watching, but I'm thinking because there's another group in the building, somebody had gone down to the first floor to use the bathroom and decided, I don't want to go back to the group, so I'm like, I got to go get this person. So I go running down the hallway thinking I'm going to find an actual person. I'm going to have to take them back to the other group, and there's nobody there, and come to find out, I asked her about it. I was like, what did you see? Like, you said you saw this. And she was like, I saw a shadow figure. Like, I saw an actual, like, it did not look human. It was an actual shadow figure peeking around the corner. Whereas it presented itself to me as an actual, like, I saw physical person, So I think that spirits will, depending on the person, depending on how they want to be perceived by that person too, will show themselves, whether it's through voice, manifestation of moving something, or physical appearance. I believe that they will show themselves in different levels, different ways to different people. So, if they don't want you seeing them, they're not really gonna show themselves. But if they want somebody else to see, they're going to try to show themselves, but you also have to make sure that you're open and you're receptive to that too.
I want to expand on that question. Do you think that we're born with the ability to see and be more open to that? Because I feel like kids are way more likely to see things, and maybe as we get older, we just put a wall up. But do you think that we're just born as, children?
I love this question. I love this. Okay. Yes. So I believe that as children, because when you got to think about it, I don't know if any of you are parents, but so you'll understand this. Okay. So as a parent, your child is fearless, and we're having to say, what? Get down off the table. You can't do that. Don't touch this. No. Basically put the fear of God into them so they don't stick a fork into an outlet, right? Or do something completely haywire, right? And so this, in the same fashion, when you think about it, as we're trying to put the absolute fear of God into them to not do something stupid, we're now instilling fear into our child, right? And so a child who might, otherwise would not have fear, they're learning no. Those walls are going up, especially if we catch them trying to watch something they're not supposed to, no, you can't see this. You can't look at it. That's scary. You can watch that when you get older. They're going to start thinking that's scary. That's bad. I can't, but I also think that children who go through traumatic experiences, a lot of people say, well, trauma can bring out perception. I completely agree with that. You talk to people who have had near-death experiences or have been brought back from the dead because they flatlined on a table, they're going to have a perception. They're going to tell you, I saw this, X, Y, and Z, and they tend to have more experiences of supernatural, paranormal after those experiences. But with children, I fully believe that they're able to see, to hear, to experience it. I had my first experience when I was 6. I had twin beds in my room, one that I slept on, and the other, they were like side by side to each other. And the one on this side had as a little girl, you got umpteen zillion stuffed animals because everybody wants to give you a stupid stuffed animal. And so it's got all my loveys on it. And I happened to roll over and I was looking at that bed, and I thought my mom was sitting on that bed. And it was really strange to me. Like, I didn't understand why my mom would be sitting with her back to me on that bed. And it looked like her. She's got her flannel pajamas on, like nightgown on. She's got her 8-bun, her hair in an 8-bun. And I'm looking at her and I'm getting ready to ask her, Mom, why are you sitting over there? And she starts to slowly turn her head towards me. Now, I have a light on in my bathroom so I can see the upstairs. And as she's turning her head, the light goes through her face and I can see through to the dresser, the 1970s, 60s, 70s dresser, right? With the big wooden top with the mirror attached to it. And I'm just like, okay. And so cool. I just roll over, pull the covers over my head, and I go back to sleep. wake up the next day, tell my mom about it, and she pulled out a picture, and it was my great grandma.
Oh man.
My God.
So yeah, and my great grandma had no association with this house, nothing. Like the last time I had seen her or was physically around her was when I was a year and a half old at her funeral. So like there's no recollection or anything for me there. But because of my own personal experience, I fully believe that children do have capabilities. I fully believe that they have that. But I think that, if they go through bad trauma, it's going to, because the brain is really good at protecting itself, which is why if you talk to like sexual assault victims, domestic abuse victims, people who are carjacked, can you give us a description? And it's like they completely have blacked out. I don't remember. It was a guy.
Disassociation to protect. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that goes to show, I mean, the brain is wonderful at protecting itself. And you got to think that's not just going to happen as an adult. That's going to happen to kids too, if they've gone through traumatic experiences. And I know I can correlate this to my own life because up until a certain age, but I grew up in a home where because my mom had abilities, my mom encouraged. She wasn't like, here's a book of like witchcraft and you're going to read this. No, I grew up in a Christian home. But my mom was like very like, if I saw stuff, she would have those open conversations. It wasn't, I was crazy. It wasn't in my head. It wasn't a bad dream. It wasn't, I watched this movie. And so, that's what it was. Or I ate chocolate after 8 o'clock at night before I went to bed, like wasn't one of those crazy like 1980s things, She actually would have those like hard conversations with me. She was willing to. And, but I ended up going through, some traumatic events as I got older, once I hit my 20s and up until recently. And like those walls went up, I know I could still sense things. I could still see certain things, but not to the extent that I could when I was younger. But now that, I am where I'm at, and like the paranormal has really helped me with healing from that trauma and like finding who I am, like those walls are coming down. And now I'm having to relearn. It's almost like teaching a child to walk and like learn how to protect myself, to set my boundaries, because I don't remember being this open when I was younger. Maybe I was, but memories get distorted as time goes on. It's almost like the telephone game in your own brain. So
Right.
And it could also even be that you're returning back to a state of like what your baseline used to be, which is why you wouldn't necessarily have remembered being more open or not. It was just sort of what you were.
Right. Yeah. And if that's what I was, and then this is my normal, now I've got to learn the proper steps of how to manage and how to do, but I fully believe that we are all born with an open, like without fear, like I said, you got to teach your child fear so they don't do dumb things. We as adults have to teach our children that. And so I think that as we teach our children, like I said, I think that, they learn enough is no and enough is bad. They're going to have those walls come up because they're going to start thinking everything's bad. Oh, well, if I see this, that's the boogeyman. That's bad. Mom said I can't watch those movies till I'm 13. That's bad. I think that's a way to look at it all.
It's a great question, really.
I very much had parents where I'd be like, Mom, I saw this. And she's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. And I've had stuff happen to me as a child and as an adult. And I believe that kids are more sensitive to that. So I am terrified for the day if it comes where my kid comes to me and it's like, there's a man in my closet. I don't know how I'm going to handle that.
Yeah.
Just give me a call. I'll help you with it.
Okay.
On the subject, this is slightly off topic, but like, when you have a kid watching something they shouldn't, when I realized that like I needed to pay more attention to what was playing when my daughter was around, she was like 3, and we were watching the newest Suicide Squad movie.
Oh.
The opening sequence has just a bunch of heads exploding, and she's in the room and she just looks up and just goes, uh-oh, like and we're gonna pause this movie. We're gonna pick this up a little bit later.
Yeah. Been there, done that myself. I know what you mean.
And I'm just like, that's gonna be like a core memory or something. She's just gonna be like, I woke up and heads were exploding.
Got another question from a listener. Where is the place that you like to investigate the most? And then I also have a question for that.
Okay, where do I like to investigate the most? Anything haunted? um, my bathroom. No, okay, sorry. Where do I like to go to? I wouldn't say it's a specific spot. It would, because you've got like your asylums, you've got hospitals, you've got jails, you've got correctional facilities, you've got homes. The house I live in I've got two spirits. I got one on my first floor. It's a ranch. I got one upstairs and I got one in the basement. I don't really need to investigate a house because I live with it.
Yeah.
But I would say out of like the other ones, I mean, you've got like classifications of places that have very interesting and in-depth hauntings. I would say like, sanatoriums, asylums are phenomenal places to investigate because of, and it sounds, I'm not trying to be rude about it, but to any of the victims, but due to the level of trauma that typically was sustained, especially you got to think about the time, the era of when those places were used, like Pinhurst, Trans-Allegheny, you've even got Madison Seminary. I was just at MadCon 6, the fourth floor of the Ohio Cottage was used as an asylum. And those type of places typically have, because of the trauma, I feel like there's people that don't realize that they can go, that they're free. I feel like there's spirits that are that were so broken while they were alive that they're still in that broken state. And then you got to think too, like with these asylums, these sanatoriums, you've got people who had mental health issues, and there wasn't awareness for mental health back in the 1900s, late 1800s, early, like go all the way back to when these places started. There wasn't a lot of awareness now, like people didn't understand what Tourette's was, or epilepsy, bipolar, depression, anxiety. I mean, we can keep going down the list, PTSD. And so what would happen, these people would be thrown into these institutions and they were understaffed. They weren't taken care of the way that they should have been. Yes, they had the men and the women's side to try to keep them separated. Now, were they really separated? No, because how many of them have cases of rape? How many of them have cases of forced abortions, of forced sterilizations? Look at Norwich State Hospital, I found out from a friend that from Norwich, which is in, if you guys don't know, it's in Preston, Connecticut. I believe Project Fear, when they were Destination Fear, they did an episode there where they set up their equipment room. And then when they went to walk around, they came back and all their equipment was all over the room. They thought somebody had broken in and messed with their stuff, but they set a camera up and they were able to prove that it was like, ghost activity. It was paranormal in nature, not somebody breaking in and messing with them. But I found out that there was a doctor at Norwich that had the belief that people of if you weren't white, that you didn't need anesthesia, and because you didn't feel pain. And so how many people were in this facility that were not of white descent, that, and they did forced sterilizations in there too. So they did the lobotomies. How many people were held down and forced to have those picks put behind their eyes to have a lobotomy done that, of a different color, and they didn't have that. So, I mean, there's so much trauma in these locations. And I think that's where it's real important to understand the history of the location if you're investigating, because you're going to have these spirits who are in pain, like that's the state that they were left in, because that's the only state that they knew. A lot of people ask too, why would these places be haunted? Well, what if this was the only place that they knew as home? They were dropped off at a young age and then they grew up in this place. Well, this is all they knew as home, and maybe they don't realize that they can leave now. Does that mean you need to go into all these places and say, go to the light? No, maybe not. But
you also have to wonder too, like where their sense of reality was when they were alive. How much different is it even now that they are not? And it's
Right.
that level of realization that they may not even have. It could have literally just been one continuous thing. Like,
Yeah. And see, that's something that I like to point out, because like even like uh Edinburgh Manor, which is out in Iowa. So it started off as a poor farm, and then like it just progressed from there. And they got an entity there that they call the Joker. And the Joker, I believe, is just somebody who was abused a lot in life, and they're acting out. You know, one of my big analogies that I like to use is, if somebody was a complete jerk in life, just because you died, do you really think you're going to be like any, you know, you're most likely going to have that same disposition. So it doesn't mean, you know, because a lot of people with these places, they like to be like, oh, it's a demonic entity, it's, you know, demon. But what if this is somebody who they were deaf, or
just
they were
an
mute,
asshole.
right, or just an asshole, and they don't know how to communicate effectively, or they're so upset over their situation, the only way that they can communicate is by banging on walls,
There's people
throwing things across
like
the
that.
room. Huh?
So there are people that are alive that are like that.
Yeah. I mean, so it's like, what if that carries on? Like, you know, people are like, oh, I got scratched. It's got to be a demon. And it's like, no, I was actually there at Edinburgh, and I was actually talking about the Joker, and I was walking on the first floor, and I was getting ready to turn the corner to a room where a teenager had been held down and sexually assaulted by staff members on multiple occasions. And as I'm getting ready to walk in, my hand started burning, and I had to have my friend I was live. I had to have my friend take my camera, and I had a welt start from my knuckle and go down my hand. And, you know, I look at it this way. What, you know, like I had mentioned, what if that was the only way that that person could communicate? What if they were trying to say, I'm here, I need help, acknowledge me, you know? And because they don't, maybe, I mean, I'm not dead, you know, so I don't know the answer to this. But what if you don't, when you die, you stay the same, you know? Like I was saying, like, you know, if you're an asshole in life, you're probably still going to be an asshole then. So if you're deaf, if you're mute, it's probably good, you know. What if that is the same way, you know, and they're only communicating in the functions and the means that they know how to communicate? So I think, sorry, I know I talked a lot about this, but I think that these type of locations are great for investigating because of the history. And I think that these spirits need to know that they're loved. I think they need to know that they're cared for, because a lot of these places, they weren't cared for, they weren't loved. You know, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the footage from Penhurst in the I think it was the 1980s. And it was that footage that led to Penhurst being shut down.
Is that the Geraldo Rivera footage?
Yeah, I can't remember if the name of the gentleman, but like he went in, and I think he did like a full week of filming there. Mm-hmm. And he was in his 20s when he did it. And like, if you listen to any of his interviews now, like he even breaks down crying now because of how much it traumatized him, watching adults being chained to beds and children running around naked. And, you know, there's feces everywhere, and there's not enough help, and they haven't eaten, and they're not clean. And, you know, they're beating each other up. And, you know, it was a horrific mess. But it was that whole week piece that he did that opened the eyes of America to how bad our healthcare industry was when it came to people with special needs. So it's like, I've got a real special heart for these locations, because I think that these spirits need to know that, like, it's okay. You're loved. We see you. We hear you. You're not forgotten. Because how many people were just put in these places and completely forgotten? You know, numerous locations like these, they have the unmarked, you know, like if you can find the cemeteries, all you're going to find is like numbered headstones. They weren't even respected enough in death to have their name remembered.
Yeah, we have a couple things here. So we have a listener, Mecca Bordeaux, saying that favorite place to investigate for her is hospitals. And she also said that you're great, which is wonderful. Thank you for that. And then on the same sort of topic we were talking about before with sensitivity, I wanted to ask, you know, for your investigations. So it seems when, like Kimberly was asking about that, it kind of changes for you, or it's kind of hopefully an ongoing change for you sensitivity wise. When you go out to a location, what's the equipment that you like to bring? Does that change? Do you like have a gut feeling when you're kind of, you know, about to go out? And does it change things? Do you think that what you take to do, in the field work will change in the future? Has it changed from when you started? That was my question.
For me, because I'm building up my base of equipment still. I did have some stuff that was hand me down, and it's since been taken. When my ex took his stuff, so I'm having to rebuild. But for me, like I have very basics, but I also have a couple specialty pieces. My absolute favorite, I have the Chattergeist, which is made by Dimension Devices out in the UK, and it's 7 pieces of equipment in one. It's even got a Ouija board, 8-ball feature. It's got a spirit drawing pad on it. I love using the 8-ball. I have never had incorrect answers come through. I've had to where it seemed like, because when I was at Old Hospital, I love, one of the things I love to do is I love to do like isolations when I do investigations and bring my audience along with me so they can experience and interact with it, like I had mentioned before. And nobody felt comfortable letting me be on the 4th floor by myself because of all the stuff that had come out on other TV shows, with there's supposed to be like a demonic presence and a really evil entity up there. And they're like, we don't want to leave you by yourself.
Right.
And I wasn't getting a lot of activity. And I was like, I wonder if I'm not getting activity because I'm not up here by myself. And we had the 8-ball feature on, and it would respond. But it was like, when we were having our conversation, and you can actually watch the live, it's on my YouTube channel. As we're talking about it, it seemed like we had 2 different spirits coming through, and like they were arguing with each other on whether or not I should be left alone upstairs. So I love my Chattergeist. The dictionary feature actually has 17,500 words. So it's like an Ovilus, but it's like an Ovilus on steroids, because an Ovilus has that max, I think, around 5,000 words. No disrespect to the makers of that, but you've got way more verbiage that is able to be used, which I love. You're not limited to only such a smaller, it's not like you're handed like the little mini version of a dictionary. You're given like the medium version, which I love. But I've never had it steer me wrong on an investigation. It's always been relevant to what I've been talking about when I use dictionary mode. At Palmyra Historical Museum, the original building burnt down to the ground, and it killed a lady and her 6 children. And from what I understand, like only 2 of the bodies of the children were found, if I'm remembering correctly. And there is a building that was built on top of it, but when you go to the basement, it's the original foundation. It's still the charred wood, that's mixed in, with the dirt and stuff. And we were next door at the general store. That's part of the museum. There's like 5 buildings to this. And as I'm on the 2nd floor and I'm talking about it, my Chattergeist is going off. Ashes, children, death, fire. Like it's saying all these things that are like pertinent, but they're not words I ever mentioned. I didn't mention ashes, like it starts, and it basically starts pointing towards the possibility of the fire being on purpose and this family being killed, which I had found out from other friends that had gone that are psychic mediums, and they're well known and they're on point within the field. That's what they had picked up, was that it was murder of this family. And so like what I got on the Chattergeist actually validated what they had seen. So that was really interesting. But I love my Chattergeist. I seem to get really interesting results with my K2. I know a lot of people don't like K2s. They're like, oh, it only picks up electromagnetic. I will clear an area with my K2 before I use it. If I can't clear an area, it gets shut off. It goes back in my boo bag. Mm. But if I can clear the area, I'll use it. And I've had it on 3 different occasions where it will hit red and it will stay. It will hold on red for like 30 seconds. And it's like intelligent conversation, intelligent responses that I'm getting. At Old Hospital, it only would respond to my voice. It wouldn't respond to my brother's voice. Joe's standing there talking, and it wouldn't budge. He would ask questions, no responses. As soon as I started talking, it would spike all the way to red, and it would hold red. Wow. So like, I kind of am fond of my K2 because I seem to get those intelligent responses for whatever reason when I use it.
Oh man, that album went by pretty quick. So before we get to our closing stuff, I noticed that you kind of peppered in a little bit of a future project that you have for TV. Can you talk about that? And also, where can our listeners and viewers find you?
Okay, so I do have a show that I filmed for, and I'm probably gonna possibly do a few more episodes with. It's actually gonna be, the name of it is Anomaly TV series. Mike Roberts is the creator of this show, and we wrapped up. I filmed 2 episodes for that already, and it should be getting finishing production and being shipped off to the streaming services, and should be available from what he posted. The most recent post that he did on Twitter, it looks like around December is when the first part of season 1 will be available to stream. So that's really exciting. And then I do have another project that I think it's not my show, but I do want to mention it real quick. If you guys have seen The Monster Inside, that's coming out on Hulu October 12th.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
It's about the I can't remember, it starts with an M, but it's the haunted house attraction where you had to sign the waiver, and
like the extreme haunted houses.
Yeah, it's one of the extremes. It's isn't it
McCaney Manor?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so Chris Smith is actually in this movie on Hulu. It actually made Times Square today on the screen. Oh. And him and I are going to start working on a cross collaboration to tie into what I do and what he does. And we're going to be starting this off in the next week. He's going to be taking me to different haunts and introducing me to different haunts. And then a little bit after that, I'm going to be taking him on an investigation with me. So if you pay attention to our socials, you're going to start seeing little snippets of those coming up. So that's real exciting.
Well, definitely send a text, because we would love to promote it for you just as a guest. Just to text me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Like, this is going to be interesting because spirits don't scare me, but I already told him, I was like, you're going to end up with one hell of a thumbnail with me, like, hiding in your back and ugly crying. All you're going to have to do is just take your phone and just point it the right way. And you're going to have an honest to God, not one of those mirror selfies that you see on you. You're going to have like the real deal of like a thumbnail. Okay. Like, people make me jump scared. The dead don't scare me. People do.
That's what people want, the jump scare.
Yeah. I mean, I jump at my own shadow, but a shadow person comes walking at me. I'm like, hey, fist bump, dude, you know?
I was actually impressed to learn we had a guest on who said that not all the shadow people are malicious. So since then, I want to believe that. Mike Ricksecker told us that, like, they're not all bad entities. They're not all demons. Some of them are just, you know, the same as if you walk by a stranger, you know, in a city.
Yeah.
Could be good, could be bad, but most of the time not demonic. So, like, I'm trying to believe that that's true. So if I come across any, I definitely will take that into consideration.
Yeah, no, I actually hold the same belief as Mike. He's got a great theory with that, and I will definitely say that I'm on board with what Mike has spoken about that for sure.
He's so awesome. I feel like I could talk to him for hours about like time travel stuff, because that's what I'm into.
Oh yeah, I met him back at Parapsychon at OSR, Ohio State Reformatory, and we actually started a friendship and like got to talking about a lot of that stuff. And I was just like, there's so many questions and I don't know where to start. Like, I actually like got real shy and quiet in front of him, believe it or not, because I was just like, I don't know what to say, because there's just all the words, all the question marks. Like, where do you start? You know?
Such a cool dude. He actually he was on our show. We had him on. Such a cool cat, super calm and confident. And then he proposed to his fiance the next day, and somehow he was able to keep it together during our show talking to us. So it just goes to show you, like, just how put together he is, and he's just somebody that I don't know, like he's somebody to aspire to. I can't say.
Oh
enough.
yeah.
Also, no one can figure out how old he is, and yet he still looks so good.
Yes. It's like you don't want to ask because you don't want to be rude, but you're like, you don't change. It's amazing.
What if the plot twist is that he's a time traveler and that's why he's the expert?
There you go.
We're on to you. We're on to you. I'm gonna at him. We're gonna set a clip of this.
He's gonna laugh so hard. That's awesome.
Before we close up, we like to have a final thought so we can have something to send our listeners and viewers, like sort of like a takeaway. We'll have you go second to last, Brie, and we'll have James and Kimberly go first, and then I'll close this out. So, right. James, either one of you have something that you want to?
Well, I think my takeaway is just, if you're an asshole in real life, you might just be an asshole. Like sometimes ghosts are just assholes. Nothing bigger or deeper about it.
My closing thought, I would like to make 2 t-shirts. One saying, "The dead don't scare me, people do." And the other one being, maybe it's not a demon, it's just an asshole.
Yeah. I think those would sell. I honestly think those would be great. We'll put them in our store.
I will take those to Paracons when I set up, and I will push those because I'm sure I could get those to go. That'd be awesome. I'd be like, we're doing this for Late Night Legends, man.
I will make you
cross promote.
All right, we're doing this. We're starting a t-shirt store.
Yes.
We're the podcasting.
We'll get them done. We've got a few that I feel like we're going to put in the pipeline, but we'll definitely collaborate with you. Brie, what do you want to leave our listeners and viewers with? And then so the people that are like listening after the fact, what would you like to leave them off with?
What I would love for people to know is and to leave them off with is going back to my road trips is I think it's amazing that everybody has a bucket list, but don't let fear stop you. Don't stop making excuses. Don't look at how long it's going to take for you to drive to get to a place. Don't look at, well, what about how do I pay this? I mean, definitely don't shortchange your finances, but tomorrow's not promised. Don't let today slip by when you could be building memories with your family going to locations. It doesn't have to be a haunted location, but any location. Go and do. If it's something you want to do, chase it. That's what I'm doing, and I hope I'm inspiring others to be able to go do that too.
Man, I don't think I can give a closing thought that's better than that takeaway. Damn.
You're welcome.
I won't have one then, but what I will say is I want to thank Brie for coming on. I thank you on behalf of our other hosts, James and really too. Thank you on behalf of our listeners and viewers. For our audience, you can find Brie. We've got a couple of her socials here that I took note of. We've got Twitter and TikTok at Brie's Baby Brie. We'll have these attached not only right now here in the description of this live stream, but we'll have it in the videos and we'll have it on our socials. Facebook and YouTube, Brie Hollingshead, and Instagram and Threads _ Beautiful Deliverance _
Yep.
10 points for having those awesome handles. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for telling a friend. We're going to catch up with Brie soon. You'll hear from us if you follow her, hopefully you will. If not, we're going to provide some updates as soon as she's got some projects coming out. And, we're excited to have her back on at some point. And outside of that, hope you have a great and safe night. We'll see you next week. And it should be pretty fun. Outside of that, I also want to say one more time, Joan, if you're listening, I hope you have happy travels and we'll see y'all next week. Thank you so much, everybody.
Night.
Bye. See ya.
Night.